Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. So this past Saturday, my Kia Forte finally gave out. I've been driving it for 3.5 years now. I bought it used, but altogether it had about almost over 1 light second on the odometer when it finally died. The interior is kind of a disaster anyway, so I'm not too displeased about having to replace the car. I was kind of expecting it anyway. And I bought a Honda Civic, much better gas mileage, and there is one thing I do want to change about my lifestyle, because one lifestyle matter contributed the most to the interior being all torn up and all that. I'm going to go into the shade to record the rest of the video. The other thing I'm really disappointed at, and this one is kind of my own risk-taking, but the timing of the car breaking down in the middle of summertime. I have to come out here. This is my third trip here to load everything, just because it's so hot. I have to duck for cover. And it's one of those things, right? We live in the United States, individualistic culture. Your car breaks down in the middle of summertime, you're on your own, right? Even, as I'm moving things, sometimes security gives me heck. The other day, I ran into a McDonald's to wash my hands, after moving some things, and the staff at the McDonald's was very upset at me for using their bathroom, right? It feels like I'm kind of used to it now. Now that I've, especially here in Phoenix, the third summer dealing with this. But it's a reminder that I need to get out of the United States. But other than that, I'm not too displeased with having to replace the car, because you got to remember the Kia Forte, had been associated with a lot of off memories. I won't say bad memories, but off times in my life. Got to remember, I bought the car at the tail end of the COVID pandemic, and we were just returning to the office. I had to deal with office politics, and I don't often do very well with that, right? I was teaching at Washington Technology, and I ran into political barriers there. I have differences in ways of life, and I won't go into too much detail there because I've already talked extensively about it. And that's when I decided to take the job here in Phoenix. I had a lot of, gotta understand, I was 35 years old when I moved here. It's very hard to start over making new friends again. I ran into a lot of barriers there. And toward the end of last year, I had one close friend that I knew from church, and he set me up on a blind date, and it kind of kick-started everything else. It's kind of interesting. What had happened was that I went out with a friend of his, and did it go anywhere? Not really, but it gave me a lot of confidence to try it again, and it's a mixed bag. Yes, I did meet a lot of new people, but with it, the uncertainty of it, right? And my work performance has I have to admit, my work performance has kind of suffered these last 6 months. In large part because of all the uncertainty that comes with going back into the dating scene. I've had dates that showed up an hour late and it caused me a lot of, stomach rumbling kind of sensation, uncertainty. I've had dates that were uncertain and wishy-washy about whether or not they wanted to go out with me. And sometimes the entire week will go by and all the uncertainty, and the only thing I did the whole week was worry about the ups and downs, right? That there have been weeks like that. I almost forgot about, I teach at Glendale Community College. I forgot the day of the performance review. What's really interesting is my boss even emailed me and asked me what would be a good day for the review, and I gave an earlier date than the one that she had suggested because I wanted to get it over with, and then I forgot about it. in large part because of all the trepidation with all the other stuff going on in my life, right? I got into a fight with my roommate because of anxiety over dating as well. What had happened was, it was a Tuesday afternoon, and one of my students was finally responding to me, and she finally had a nice long conversation with me and got even more fascinated with me as we talked, and by the end of that interaction I was completely drained, and I lost all my mental battery to deal with my roommate. My roommate had a minor situation, what should have been a minor situation that day, but my mental battery was drained, and he had a hard time recognizing that. Let's just put it that way. My roommate, he was an alcoholic anyhow, so very difficult to deal with that combination. And then my grandmother passed away last December. At the funeral, I was reading my grandmother's biography, and what caught my eye is that she was born just a few months before Mary Curry had passed away. And so I asked my grandmother, when she makes it to the other side, during the funeral at the speech, I spoke about my grandmother, and then I asked her, when she makes it to the other side, to ask Mary Curry to set me up on a blind date with one of her descendants. My dad was so upset at the remark, and my uncle happens to be a psychologist, and he told my dad, don't worry about it. People grieve differently. Just some people laugh at funerals. I've seen it all. And that's what my uncle told my dad. And my dad calmed down considerably after that. When I went up to my grandmother's casket, you see, Mary Curry discovered polonium. She isolated from uranium, or of course that's not how polonium is made today. Today it's made from bismuth, bombarding bismuth with neutrons in a nuclear reactor. And so I put a chunk of bismuth in my grandmother's casket for her to take up to to give to Mary Curry so that she could continue her research. And the casket, along with everything inside, was cremated. I was hoping to see what would be the result of that bismuth. It make a crystal or something, but the urn was sealed before I got a chance. And I didn't want to ask anybody because my dad was already so upset about it. So, and then I came home and I met, she's half Polish and loves literature, almost like a descendant, almost like a reincarnation of Eve Curry. But again, she was really late one time and gave me a lot of anxiety. And while I was waiting for her, I decided to read a little bit about the biography of the Currys. And I discovered that Mary Curry had a granddaughter named Helene, and she was still alive and still very active, had a university email account. And I decided to email her, and well, it's still ongoing, so I hate to talk too much about it. And not long after that, I've always been a big fan of another celebrity in Poland. I won't talk too much about it because, again, it's ongoing. But after I spoke to Helene and I made a Lego art piece of a monument in Poland to try to impress her, I had another conversation with the other celebrity, and let's just say that it's still ongoing. So I hate to talk too much about it. But unfortunately, all this is great. But the turbulence of the ups and the downs, the nice conversations followed by another session of ghosting each other, this is completely tore apart the rest of my life, my professional life, my dynamics with my roommates, my financial situation, my eating disorder. Unfortunately, has been completely appended by all of this dating drama. And I don't know if it's worth it or not, because people say, well, don't do it then. Well, the problem is that you got to remember what happened last summer when I had COVID, right? This summer, now that my car's broken down, at least I have a friend I could pick up the phone and call, right? Did I call anybody? Not really. I mean, I kept it very short, please say a prayer for me, my car's broken down. But I feel infinitely better knowing that the number is there for me to call. It is a very weird dynamic for me to explain. Just knowing something is there, even if you never make use of it, right? For example, knowing that you have some amount of gold, silver, and bismuth, even if the financial situations never call for you to make use, even if they crash in price, right? Just knowing that they're there just in case shit happens, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.